This is a very special car. It's a car that caught my eye when I was at Gary's workshop getting the one of my cars tuned up, and I saw it and I thought, I've never seen anything like that. So I said to Gary, would he mind taking us through it and showing it inside and out and just seeing what it runs like on my track. So welcome to Gary again, back again, and okay, tell us all about this BMW M3.
Okay, John, well, as you've rightly identified, this is an E46 M3.
Yeah.
It's made by Ninco. They did a few different liveries of these, but for me this is far and away the best one.
Okay.
Like you've said, I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I think the blue is a lovely shade. You've got the gold BBS wheels and you've got that white interior, which I think just makes it pop.
It does. That interior is just stunning.
It is. It confuses me sometimes that a lot of slot car manufacturers use black pans for interiors, because if you've ever been inside a race car, most of the time it's either white or it's the colour of the body.
Right.
Because of course a race car interior is completely stripped out.
So that interior then, Gary, is as it was. That's standard when the car was made. Is that right?
That's how it comes.
No?
Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely. And it's one of the things that caught my eye about it when I bought the car. This was probably one of the first non-Scalextric slot cars I owned.
So what brand is it again? Sorry,
it's Ninco.
It's a Ninco. Okay.
And it was the second Ninco car I bought. It was very likely the second non-Scalex, although I can't quite remember. And these are pretty hard to find these days, and one of the reasons for that is because they drive so well. So they were used a lot by racers for club racing.
Okay.
And that's how cars disappear from the market, because they get raced and they get trashed, or they get replaced and left in someone's pit box, and that's what makes them rare.
And when did you buy it?
I couldn't be sure. But,
okay. Roughly how many years?
2005 maybe.
Okay. Yeah. So over 10 years, 15 years.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. So this is over 15 years old, likely then, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Do we know what colour blue that is? I know I'm putting you right.
Yeah. No, I'm not a car historian. Okay, unfortunately, right, okay. I'm a slot car trigger guy.
But we've got an awesome amount of detail on here, haven't we? With the bonnet vents look, the way the thing's decorated. And we've got these beautifully done wing mirrors there, colour-coded wing mirrors on there as well. As you said, we've got the gold BBS wheels, which, funny enough, remind me of the wheels on a Lotus Esprit. They were BBS. And as we come towards the back here, you've got the spoiler on the back. Is this the body moulded spoiler?
No, it's a separate spoiler.
Okay. So that can be detached if you want to take it off. Let's just rotate it around, have a look at the back of it.
Or even if you don't want to take it off.
Right, if you go too fast. Is it designed to sort of come off if you go too fast?
No, it's a breaker, unfortunately.
Oh dear. Okay, so you've got to be careful with this. But what I love as well is the way they've got the wide body wheel arches there over the back wheels and the front wheels. Beautifully done. It's a work of art. Have you raced it?
I haven't raced this one, but I have raced one of these cars, yes. Like I mentioned, they're very popular with the club racers.
Right.
In their time.
Okay.
Most clubs would have allowed this as a touring car, even though technically it's a GT. But, clubs' definitions of cars are pretty loose at the best of times. So, 3-door saloon body, it's a touring car.
Right.
So they were very competitive touring cars in their day. And even if you raced it in a GT class, as long as it wasn't something like an unrestricted GT class, that would have prototypes in GT1 cars in, it was competitive against other GT2 cars of that era, so Porsches and Ferraris and cars like that. It could quite comfortably hang with them. And one of the reasons for that is that it's an angle winder car.
Yeah.
And I think I'm right in saying it's the first angle winder car that Ninco made.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong, it's one of the first for sure.
Wow. Okay.
These were supplied initially with NC2 boxer motors in the angle winder position.
Okay.
And that was really revolutionary for the 132 plastic body cars of the time, because everything up to that point was either an inline or a sidewinder configuration.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we take the body off and have a look?
Yeah, let's do it. So one bad thing about this car is that we've got this lovely side exhaust detail here, which is actually moulded into the chassis.
Oh, right.
So to get the body off, we just have to
pop it over the top.
Pop it over the top, which I can't do trying to show to the camera. Okay. But it's like that.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so there you go. So there's the exhaust look, and it's on the actual chassis itself.
And there's nothing intrinsically wrong with that, but of course, if you're a racer and you want some body float, that's not going to be achievable with the body hooked over that exhaust.
So what do you do?
A lot of the racers would cut the exhaust off with a scalpel. And it's just a huge shame because it looks nice.
It does look nice, and I totally agree. So that basically means that even though there might be some cars of this model still out there, a lot of them could be butchered in a way that some people have cut the exhaust off them.
If they're ex-racers, that's definitely a likelihood.
Yeah, well, okay, that is interesting. So now we've got the body off. I'm going to just rotate it around so you can see it. So here it is, with the body now removed. So we're looking at the bare chassis. Pretty simple chassis, that.
Yeah, it's bare bones, but you know, this car was probably designed towards the end of the 90s or the early 2000s, and this is what cars were like back then.
Okay.
You know, this being an angle winder, this was technologically revolutionary for its time. Okay. So although it looks simple compared to today's car, it was actually pretty interesting.
Because of the nature of the angle winding part of it, you're right.
I mean, you know, slot racers that have got experience of racing in the 60s will be more than familiar with an angle winder layout, but when we're talking about, you know, mass-produced plastic body model slot cars, then this hadn't really been done before.
It does strike me as the simplicity of an NSR car in a way. You know, like when I first got an NSR, it looked very, very simple.
Well, there's a few tricks hiding out of plain sight. So the first thing we'll talk about is the guide, which is actually sprung. So I might need to just tilt that. Yeah. Don't know if you can see the spring inside.
Oh yeah, let's see if we can get a zoom in on that. I can see, yes, there is a spring inside.
So that's
yeah. There you go, look. That's good.
So that will help keep the guide in the slot if the car goes over a bump, because it will spring back into the slot.
I like that.
Front axle, there's nothing going on here. The axle's free floating, just with some interference mounts, so there's a little bit of lash.
Yeah.
And although that can be good on bumpy tracks, most of the racers, if it was permitted within the rules, would fix that front axle in the highest position it can go.
Okay.
Because it does move up and down.
Right. Okay.
Cables to the motor, nothing going on there.
On the motor there, I can see like what appears to be some kind of component, resistor or something.
Yeah, that's nothing to write home about. It's just an anti-interference component. All slot cars used to have this. Just Electrical have it.
Oh, okay.
It's
there to smooth out the flow of electric, I suppose. Is it? Yes.
So transmission. Then we've got these beveled gears.
Mm-hmm.
Most angle winder cars that are produced today will use a plain cut pinion, usually a sidewinder pinion, and all just have a beveled spur gear. But Ninco beveled the spur and the pinion gear.
And the pinion, yes, you can see that. I hope the camera's picking that up. Yeah. Why do they do that? Is there a reason, or?
I don't know really. It's you might be able to argue that it's smoother, but as you'll find out, the Ninco angle winder transmission technically wasn't the smoothest thing.
Right, okay.
We've got brass bearings in the rear axle, which is standard for all Ninco cars, and then we've just got this black stopper here, which controls the lash on the rear axle.
Very cleverly designed chassis. That is a lot more to it than I thought, actually. But you know, it's nice because it's simple, and they've accounted for things like you know, bumpy tracks, haven't they? In the design of that.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to pop the car on the scales as usual, see how much it weighs. So 91, that's heavy. by my thing. I think anything now, I'm beginning to realise that anything over 80 is getting heavy.
Yep.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, but what you've got to remember is that this car has a boxer motor,
right,
which weighs a whole lot more than an S can.
Okay, right.
So there's probably 7 or 8 grams in the motor.
Right. Ah, okay. So the motor itself, that's fascinating. So basically the motor can bring in a bit of weight into it as well. But that surprised me a little bit, actually. I was expecting it to weigh about 80, 85, something like that. So it has come in a bit heavier than I thought. Just because the reason I was expecting it to be lighter is because it was so simple inside. You know, it was very, very simple, and there didn't seem to be a lot to it. But as you say, it's the motor.
The motor, and the interior is considerable as well, being a half tray.
Right. Right, it's time to get this car. This is the thing I've been waiting to see for about 3 weeks now, to get it on the track. I want to see how it goes on my track. We now have this Ninco BMW E46 M3 sat on the track. Let's just see it on the track here. As you can see, it's ready to go round. I've been waiting for this for a while, so the first observation is the noise. I know you're picking this up. This is a noisy car. A real noisy car. I really wasn't expecting it to be so noisy. Where's the noise coming from, Gary? What's your...
Well, if you can hear me, John.
Yeah, only just.
A lot of the early Ninco angle winders suffered from this problem, and it was quite common to have to perform a lot of work to make them run smoothly. Although, as you can see, the performance is more than smooth enough.
Yes.
So it's probably the stopper that we saw on the rear axle just affording a bit too much lash, so the gears are falling out of mesh slightly.
Right.
You could shim that or move the stopper down on the axle.
I mean, the thing is, folks, we really are having to sort of shout to hear each other. It really is loud, this thing. But it looks great on the track. Absolutely great. A little bit of body slide there. We've seen it slide out on the corners, as you can see. So it's not not what you call a grippy car, but it's beautifully smooth on the track. We are getting some slide, no body roll like we've seen on some of the others. It's great to see this thing running, you know, over several years since Gary got it, and it's back out on the track and running. So Gary's going to let me have a little try with this just to see what it's like with me driving it. I'm a bit nervous because I don't want to crash it, so we're going to take it steady. What I will say is, it's off like a rocket. The minute you just slightly open the throttle, this thing goes very, very quickly. What I'm finding interesting is, it reacts really quickly initially, but then when you open the throttle heavily, it's not so reactive. But it really is fantastic fun. In fact, those noises give you quite a good bit of feedback. Yeah, that's fascinating. The important thing now is, what we've got to know is, how fast does it go around my track? Bearing in mind it's a non-purchasable car now, but it'd be a shame not to find out. So we're going to get the lap timer set up and see how fast this lovely BMW Ninco M3 can go around my track. Okay, so we are now going to lap time this car around my track. No magnets in it, purely by coincidence. So 10 laps of the track on this Ninco BMW M3. Gary driving it, of course, it's his car, so he knows the car better than me, and I wouldn't want to be responsible for breaking it. It's going well. I think this is going to set a good time. Doing well. Got a little bit of slide on the tail there as it goes round, but it goes quickly down the straights. I think this is going to set a fast time. Beautiful. There we go. We have done the 10 laps, and we're now going to find out how fast this car went around my track. So it did it in under 1 minute. That's fast. That is fast. 57.85, and the fastest lap was 5.55 seconds. That's good. That is a very, very good lap time when you consider that this car is, what, 15 years old, we were saying, weren't we, or thereabouts?
Yeah.
That's a phenomenally good lap time. Then again, that's with Gary driving it and not me, but he can set faster lap time, so I would be a little bit slower, but nevertheless a highly respectable lap time for this original non-modified, I think, isn't it right, Gary?
Yes,
we haven't modified it in any way.
Standard, just magnet removed.
Magnet removed, and completely standard BMW M3 E46 by Ninco.